everybody, this is Sergei DRATCHEV. I hope you like the new intro. I used my Mac for the first time, well, after a big break. I had the Mac a long time ago, but switching from Windows Movie Maker, even though it's a primitive program, but you know, you get so used to it, using the Mac iMovie software requires a total different set of skills. So it took me like probably 2.5 hours. Then I had to redo everything because everything is different. Each operation, except maybe inserting a transition or title, and titles are different. I couldn't find anything exactly matching what I had on the Movie Maker. But anyway, so we're starting the new format with an incredibly boring video called How Many Chains Do I Need? Because some people were asking me about this, how you determine, and even though I mentioned this each time I load or unload pretty much, I thought I would just give you a quick rundown so that you guys have this video to refer back to. First of all, in US and Canada, you can find lots of good things in this very dry legal English book, Federal Motor Carrier Safety Regulations, and you get it for free in many places where you get hired. Like I got this copy from Landstar, and this is it gets updated every year, and it's pretty much free. You know, it includes safety, chains, how many lights you need, the hours of service, stuff like that. But also there's books that kind of like, this is the actual law, right? Federal law, but then each state is different, each province is different. But if you stick to this, at least you'll be safe. And then at the end of this video, I'll show the WLL, working load limit for chains. And I'm not going to talk about straps because this is heavy haul, so mostly I use chains. And if someone want to pull a flatbed or step, if you deal with machinery or equipment, that's what you usually use. So a few key notions that one must know in order to properly secure a load is, first of all, you gotta know the WLL, working load limit, of your tie downs, of your chains, binders, stake pockets. Like on each trailer, usually there's a sticker that tells you what are parts of the trailer rated for, like stake pockets on a step deck trailer, or small D-rings like I had on my step deck. On my lowboy, I only have D-rings, and some of them not even marked. And I called the plant, and they said, one of them, like 2 in the back are marked, 15,000 WLL, and the rest is not marked. So I don't know, but I think that's the standard, like the kind of size, like what I have, 1 inch thick. But so working load limit, it's not the braking strength limit, because that one is much higher. This is what's safe to put on that chain, right? But the important part is that there's not just a chain that's part of this assembly, right? Tie down. You hook up your chain to something, and then the chain has a hook usually, right? And then there's a binder. And you must make sure that all these components are rated enough, because for example my chain is rated for 11,300 pounds, but because I didn't have good binders, I had to use those overpriced binders I got in South Carolina, and turns out they only rated for 9,200 pounds. So now guess what, now my whole tie down, I cannot claim 11,300. Now it's only 9,200, And then the hooks also, like quite often when you buy chains, you gotta buy the hooks separately, and you gotta make sure that the hooks match the like the WLL of hooks match the WLL of your chains, But anyway, so once you know that, let's say, and mostly the WLL of a chain, of course, depends on the grade of steel. The typical is grade 70 transport chain, and then there's also grade 80, which is more expensive but has a higher WLL, but the typical is grade 70. And then it depends on the diameter of the link, like in inches. Like there's 5/16, 3/8, half an inch, and then what is it, 5/8. So what I'm using now is 1/2 inch. That means that the length of the chain is what is it, 13 millimeters approximately for our friends in Japan and Australia. And now I got these new bigger binders, made in China, of course. They're big D-rings, see? And right on the handle here it says WLL, 13,000 pounds. Okay, and I think the braking strength is like 46,000 or something. But so that's what I gotta use with my new chains. Okay, so now we know what WLL is, right? And we make sure that all the components match each other, because if anything is lower, has a lower rating, they go by that. So if you want to take advantage of your high WLL, you must make sure that all the components are rated sufficient. Now, when you tie down, two other things to carry in mind is that there's a direct tie down and then there's indirect tie down, right? So if this is your trailer, and I cannot believe how square and straight it looks, and this is your load, right? And we're looking from the front or from the rear. So let's say you hook up a chain like this, right? Wow, should have been an artist, I think. But so you hook up a chain from one side of the trailer to one side of the load, right? This is called direct. And then you can also hook it up like this, right, over the load, and from one side of the trailer to the other side of the trailer. Mostly this is done with straps, but also with chains. Let's say when I was tying down this grader that I still have on my trailer, I mostly used the direct tie downs, like a shorter chains, and then I use a couple of long ones to, for example, to secure the blade in the machine. Now this is called direct. No, wait a second. Sorry, indirect, because it's not directly connected to the load. And indirect sounds kind of like weird, right? Because direct, it's better to be direct than indirect. But indirect tie down, you get 100% of whatever it's rated for. Whereas with these guys, you only get 50%. So if that's not confusing, I'll try to explain. I mean, I don't know what else would be confusing, because this is really confusing. But basically, let's say you're using this chain like I'm using, 11,300 WLL. You get all that only if you use your chain like this, indirect tie down. If you use it like this, each of these shorter chains only get, what is it, 55 plus, what is it, 5650 pounds, right? But if you use two of them, so they count as one. So it's kind of like, you know, after a while it's easy to count them, right? So one pair of short chains, I call them short chains, is the same as, has the same WLL as the long chain, one long chain. Okay? Alright, and now the last thing, two more things before you fall asleep finally, is that how you determine how many chains you need, right? When you know all this, well, you just take 50% of your load weight. So it's important to know what the stuff you carry actually weighs. And lots of times I find maybe like 70% of cases, whatever the shipper or the broker tells you or the dispatcher, it's wrong. Usually it's less heavy. That's been my experience. Like they're telling you it's, oh yeah, 52,000 pounds. Yeah, we haul them every day, like each week, 2-3 pieces a week, the same thing, 52,000. And then I go scale, it's 45,000, you know, like. But sometimes it can be heavier, and then you can be in trouble, right? So you gotta make sure that you know the weight, because then you can calculate how many chains you need. So let's say, for easy reference, 40,000 pound machine, right? So you need to have enough chains to cover 50% or 20,000 pounds, right? So now if we use that 11,300 chain, we just basically need two chains, right? Like indirect. One in the front from one side of the trailer, one in the back, and that should be enough. But, well, not so fast, because first of all, there's another little rule. So it's all confusing a little bit. That's why this video, I think, will be helpful. There's another rule about machinery that weighs over 10,000 pounds. It qualifies as heavy machinery. And heavy machinery requires that you have 4 points of contact, basically. So you gotta have 4 separate chains, 4 separate binders, because some guys just take one chain and thread it like it looks like it's 2 chains, but it's actually 1 chain, and they put 2 binders, and then you can get a ticket, because cops will say, hey, the rule is you gotta have a separate chain, you know, cut it, and they'll count it as 2 chains. If not, I'll give you a ticket, you know. So it gotta be 4 separate chains, 4 separate binders, so basically short chains, right? And then you need to secure the blade. Any attachments on the machine, like a blade or a bucket or whatever, you need to throw a strap or a chain over it, so that it, and hydraulic articulation points. If this machine has a, you know, can wiggle like this, you gotta make sure there's a bolt in there so that it does not articulate in transit, or you put extra chains on it or whatever. But so that's it. So now let's say, so you get enough chains to cover 50% of the weight, and you go by the WLL, right? Depending on whether it's direct, indirect, whatever. So let's say you have 4 short chains, so each 2 chains, in my case 11,300 pounds, right? 11,300. So it's 2,200, 600 pounds. But there's also another little rule, which says that you gotta make sure that your tie downs can stop, have 0.5 G deceleration in the forward movement. Basically, you gotta make sure that the chains are like roughly they can hold 50% of the weight. If, let's say, you hit your brakes, you know, again, in this case, let's say 20,000 pounds, right? So the chains should be enough to hold 20,000 pounds. Well, in this case, actually, it's pretty good, because let's say I have these 2 short chains in the back, and it's 11,300, right? Is that enough? I don't think it's enough, right? Because you need more chains, right? And that's why they can move. If you put only 4 chains like this, but you don't check this with this other formula, you know, like, do you have enough chains to stop the machine from moving forward or rear, or I mean backwards? And also there's another rule for like lateral movement, like sideways. And that's why for something like this heavy, you rarely see people use like 4 chains, right? So you use I don't know, 6, 7, 8. Like my machine, this one, it's only 36,000 pounds. I put 12 chains on it. The poor thing couldn't breathe, you know. But anyway, of course, it's always better to put more chains than what you need, you know, just to, and make sure you check them, you know, like during the first 50 miles, or what is it, 2 hours or 1.5 hour. Basically, you stop and check one. A friend I know, he says he stops like during the first 5-10 miles, and then again during the first, you know, hour or so. So, and because after that, that's when it starts moving, when you start driving. And once you correct these initial, you know, loose chains, then it should be okay. So it's better to stop more often, like during the first hour, 2 hours, right? Make sure everything is good. And that's it. And what else? Well, then of course, cops don't like to see those snap binders. They like to see something wrapped around the handle so that they don't open. But the ones that, like I showed you before, these are ratchet binders, right? So these you don't have to secure, because there's a big thread in here, like it cannot open by itself. But they do get loose. Like the chain can get loose if it moves a little bit, because the chain has a twist in it. If you don't notice it, if your chain is twisted, if you look at the links and they're not straight, it like goes like this, then you start moving, the chain starts turning, and when it turns, it gets loose. So these are just a few tricks, a few rules, right, that can help new guys determine how many chains you need. And once again, this is the book that you want to have a copy of, and here's some working load limits for the most popular chains. Stay safe. Thanks for watching. Take care.